In the 19th century, people witnessed a war that didn't last for years, not even days, but only 3,838 minutes. For the first time in history, a war ended even before its news could spread. This war, fought in Africa, became known as the Anglo-Zanzibar War, and it was officially recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the shortest war in history. But the real question is, which two nations fought this war, and how did it end in just under 40 minutes? Welcome once again, viewers, to another video by Zimvoice. This historic battle was fought on an island in the Indian Ocean called Zanzibar, which used to be an island nation located just 40 kilometers off the coast of East Africa. Zanzibar was under the control of the Sultanate of Oman. Everything was going fairly well until a new power entered the scene, a power that tried to dominate Zanzibar and East Africa through politics, the British Empire. Britain had long eyed Zanzibar due to its strategic location and the opportunity to exploit its rich resources. The British considered themselves far superior, especially when compared to Eastern countries like India, Africa, and several Arab nations. However, because Zanzibar was still under Omani control, the British couldn't fully realize their ambitions until it was out of the Sultanate's hands. At that time, the Sultan of Oman was Sid bin Sultan, a strong and uncompromising ruler, often called the Lion of Oman. With him in power, the British had little chance of taking control. But in 1856, after his death, his elder son, Thuwaini bin Said, took control of Oman, while the younger son, Majid bin Said, declared Zanzibar an independent country, separating it from Oman. Zanzibar had been part of Oman for centuries, and many Arab rulers refused to accept it as a new nation. But the British saw this as the perfect opportunity and quickly backed Majid bin Said, recognizing Zanzibar as an independent state. From that moment on, the British Empire officially entered Zanzibar's politics. Revised second half. Zanzibar's wealth heavily relied on what was known as the last active slave market in the world. Slaves were transported from mainland Africa to the island, often bound in chains. Many perished during the brief ocean crossing, succumbing to illness, suffocation, or desperation. Their bodies were coldly discarded into the sea. Once ashore, they were sold like goods in open markets. Dozens were packed into cramped, suffocating cells without food or water. Traders publicly whipped them to determine their endurance. Those who endured silently were sold at higher prices. Time moved on. Rulers changed, but slavery remained the economic backbone of the island, with firm British backing. A luxurious palace was constructed for the Sultan, right on the coast. It became the first building in East Africa to be electrified. Its design featured rich woodwork and interconnected buildings linked by bridges. However, the British were facing increasing global pressure for supporting a regime that profited from human trafficking. To protect their image, they began to urge the Sultan to shut the market down. After much negotiation, the slave market was permanently closed in 1873, tightening Britain's grip on the island. Then came August 25th, 1896, The sudden death of a pro-British sultan shook the political landscape. His cousin, Khalid bin Bargash, seized power without British consent, having poisoned the ruler. The British, who had selected Hamud bin Muhammad as their preferred successor, sent Khalid a stern ultimatum. Vacate the royal palace by 9 a.m. on August 27th. Instead, Khalid fortified the palace with his loyal guards and sealed himself inside. In response, the British Navy encircled Zanzibar. Tensions escalated for the next 48 hours. On the morning of the deadline, at 8 a.m., Khalid reached out, offering to resolve the matter diplomatically. The British refused unless he surrendered unconditionally. Half an hour later, Khalid defiantly declared he would not abandon his claim to the throne and doubted Britain's willingness to engage in war. The British replied coldly. They weren't looking to fight, but could if necessary. Outside the palace stood 2,800 defenders, including civilians, guards, and servants. To counter the British fleet, Khalid deployed the warship HHS Glasgow near the harbour, a vessel worth £32,000. At exactly 9 a.m., the deadline passed. Immediately, 2 British war cruisers, 3 gunboats, and 150 Marines began their assault. Against overwhelming odds, the 150 British forces took on the 2,800 defending troops. By 9:02 a.m., British gunboats, Raccoon, Thrush, and Sparrow, unleashed a fierce bombardment. In moments, the palace's main artillery was destroyed, and the HHS Glasgow was sunk. Its crew quickly raised a British flag to signal surrender. Originally, the British intended to capture Khalid and exile him to India. However, amidst the shelling, Khalid managed to escape with his allies, disappearing from the palace undetected. Of the Sultan's forces, approximately 500 were killed in the heavy bombardment. British ships fired 500 shells, over 4,000 machine gun rounds, and 1,000 rifle shots during the conflict. At 9:37 a.m., British forces entered the palace. The remaining guards gave up without further resistance. 1 minute later, at 9:38 a.m., British Marines climbed the palace roof and pulled down the Sultan's flag. The entire war was over in just 38 minutes. While Khalid's side suffered heavy losses, the British recorded only 1 injured sailor. It was later discovered that Khalid had fled to German East Africa, where he sought asylum under a rival colonial power. By the end of that very day, the British installed Hamud bin Muhammad as the new Sultan. Fine. This lightning-fast conflict marked the start of an era of firm British control over Zanzibar. The island became a British protectorate, and over the next decade, 17,200 slaves were freed as the British worked to dismantle the island's slave-based economy from the roots. So now, the bigger question stands: did British colonialism in the 18th and 19th centuries bring progress or leave destruction in its wake? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching another compelling episode by Zim Voice. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next fascinating story.